Let's get comfy. This is going to be a very chatty video. I've got my iced coffee with me, so go ahead and pause, get a snack, get a drink. We're going to be chatting a lot. Now this video is going to be my pen paling 101, everything you need to know about pen paling. I've had a few questions here and on TikTok about what it is since I've been posting a lot more pen pal with me videos, and I have a few more coming out. Now, pen paling is pretty much where you just exchange letters in a way to develop a relationship. Now, whether it's to learn about a different culture, learn a different language, or just to make a friend. There's so many reasons why people get into pen paling. Okay, so now that we've gotten the dictionary explanation out of the way, let's start off with something very serious to begin with. I don't want to make it seem like it's scary or intimidating, but I just want to be honest. You have to be careful when you are giving out your personal information. Now, I don't ever give out my information on the very first day, even the very first week. I like to take time out and I like to get to know who I am speaking with before I go ahead and give them my address. A lot of the time, if you do it through social media, it's so easy to talk online and kind of get to know them. Sometimes they have public pages where you can go ahead and look at the kind of stuff that they're into, see if they really are a good match for you. I do want to say, if you do not feel comfortable, if you don't feel like you're a good match, that's totally fine. You do not have to write with them. You do not have to give them any personal information of yours just because you've talked for a few days. Do not ever feel like you need to do that. Now that that's out of the way, that little warning, let's talk about ways you can find it. As I said before, social media is a good way. You want to utilize looking at groups, pages, and hashtags. There is a website called penpal.com. I personally haven't used it just because I like to be a little bit more hands-on when I'm doing my letters. Essentially, you're kind of just creating a postcard online, a personalized message, maybe some photos, and they'll send it to your pen pal physically. It is encrypted, so they don't get your information, you don't get their information address wise. So it is $2.49, which is a little bit on the pricey side, but it does save you a trip to the post office. So it's totally up to you if that's something you want to go ahead and check out. I would say another way is look locally. If you are in school, whether it is middle school, high school, college, if you are in middle school or under 18, please ask your parents first before writing a total stranger. They may not want their address out there. But yeah, usually schools have some sort of pen paling programs, or local libraries do, and if they don't, maybe you could start one. Okay, so if you aren't totally comfortable writing to a stranger yet, I would say start off with your friends and family. It is such a good way to keep in touch with them. It is someone you already know, someone you're already comfortable with, and especially if you live long distance, it's a great way to kind of keep up the communication and look forward to. Let's see. I have a little list here that I'm looking off of. There's primarily two different kinds of pen pals. There's a snail mail, which is where you send things physically, like a postcard or a letter through your post office, or there's a digital pal that is pretty much keeping up through email or social media. I'm going to be honest, I've done digital pen paling. I'm not the best at it. I'm terrible at always looking for my emails. Sometimes I totally skip it or it just doesn't show up. It'll go to spam and I don't really look for it, which is terrible, I know. I look more forward to the snail mail because I love looking in my mailbox and seeing if I have a letter, if I don't have one. And I like to get more hands-on with it. It's like you're receiving a fun little gift or you're making a fun little gift for someone. So I personally like snail mail. Now, where do you start? That is a big question. Your introduction letter, I feel for me, is almost the most intimidating part of this whole entire thing. Because it's this is the first impression you're going to give someone. It's the first one you're going to get from them as well. Do you keep it simple? Do you go all out? What do you want to do? I say keep it in the middle. You want to show your personality, but you do not want to overdo it. Because there's some pen pals who aren't able financially to return the thing. It's not return the same favor of giving extra goodies or decorating all the way. Because pen paling can be expensive. I could lie and say it's almost free, but it is not. It can be expensive. You have to think the weight of your letter, all the little extra things you put in, if you do decide to put it in. So I say in your first letter, try and keep it simple. Let them know what your expectations that you would like to get out of pen paling, what you want to see from it. How often do you want to write to each other? Do you have a budget for this? Do you want to have a decorated letter? Do you want to have a simple letter? It is totally up to you. I would say, make sure you're always respecting the other person's feelings on how they want their expectations, just like you'd want them to do to yours. Goodies and extras can get expensive, especially when you are putting them in. Sometimes I've paid upwards of $4 or $5 an envelope to send something out. Not everyone is able to do that. Whew. So I'm going to have a few examples of an introduction letter. I'm all out of breath here, so excuse me. But yeah, I'm going to have 3 different examples of an introduction letter and kind of just like a rough idea of what it would look like if it's simple, not decorated, if it is somewhat decorated, or if it's like really decorated. So you can feel free to pause, screenshot that if you want. Now, are extras and goodies required? No, they are not required. That is the most simplest way I could put it. No. It is a preference. It is solely dependent on you and your pen pal. If your pen pal is unable to send it, do not expect it from them if you send them something. Now, if you aren't able to send something, let them know. Tell them, hey, I'm sorry, but it's not in my budget. I would prefer just to have letters written to each other. If they decide to send you something, awesome. Make sure you thank them. It's something nice that they don't have to do for you. How do you send the letter? It is very simple. You can keep it really basic with just paper, envelope, pen, and a stamp. If you want to get more creative, use what you have at home. There's so many things you could do with some scratchbook paper, some art supplies like markers, pens, and coloring pencils. If you want to help support a small business, a lot of the time on Etsy they have like these really cute stationery that's really fun and quirky that like is uniquely to that shop. And most of the time these shops will send you extra freebies. I definitely do in almost all my orders. I send extra freebies. So not only do you get a goodie for yourself, but you get a goodie for your pen pal. You can send extra things like tea. I'm always on the rough end. I don't like to send candy just because I'm worried it's going to melt. I live in Texas. It gets hot here. So your girl does not like to send candy. But if you live in a different country and you know it won't melt and you want to send it for your pal to try, by all means go ahead. It is up to you. You can send photos, you can send postcards, you can send stamps. Me and my pen pals like to send memo pads to each other. That one's a really fun one. Or washi tape. That is super popular and super inexpensive. It's like $1 for like 2 or 3. How do you keep track? I like to make a list of my pen pals. I had almost 20, 25 at one point, and it got hectic, let me tell you. It got expensive as well, so keep that in mind. The more pen pals you have, the more expensive it's going to be. But anyways, you want to create a list of their names, put their address down so you always have a copy of it, maybe their interests, like the kind of letter that they prefer or things that they like, so you could theme it towards that. If you want, you can even do a going in and going out table. Now let's go back to something I said at the beginning. We want to go over some safety guidelines. If you do not feel comfortable giving out your information, do not give it out, please. Second thing, do not send money. Please do not send money. If they are asking for it, most times it is a scam. I've never had this happen to me, but I have heard of happening to someone where they're like asking them to send like $300-$400, and they did, and then they stopped writing to them after that, weren't able to get in contact, even though they're like, oh, I'll pay you back. Sometimes pen pals like to send each other gift cards throughout the holidays, and like that's totally up to you, that's your preference. But like I said, don't send anyone money. Most of the time they have other resources they can use before turning to you. If your children are pen paling, please supervise them. Use your judgment. If you're going to do it, I would say read the letter first maybe and see what's going on, or if it's someone that you know, that's probably always safer. And be careful what kind of information you give out. You don't want to give out like specific details on like your children or things like that, or things that may be used as security questions. Like I said, I've never had that happen to me, and I've been pen paling for years, but I always do like to be cautious on certain things that I tell my pen pals. All in all, pen paling is super fun. It's a great way for you to be creative, get to meet other people, learn languages, cultures. There's even the thing that artists like to do called artist trading cards. I haven't done that yet. I do want to try, but I'm waiting until I get a PO box for that. But essentially, it's kind of like they are decorating. I don't want to say it's an index card. It's like half the size of an index card, but they're decorating it and they trade it to each other. Sometimes they use like different medias when they're making these trading cards, but they look pretty cool. So if you have social media, I would look up like the hashtags artist trading cards and see what they have. It's honestly really amazing what some of these people do on like a little piece of paper. But yeah, I think that's all for this video. If you guys have any questions, leave them down below and I'll be sure to answer. Thank you.